All right, welcome back. This is the sCAP course with Dr. VG, and I believe that we're going to be talking about moral influence this week. Let's see what there is to say. All right, now, once we got that talking about ideas and beliefs and faith, it brings up another set of terms, another four. We're looking at altruism, greed, morality, and ethics, okay? These are other words that I'm sure that you have encountered already, but we have our same activity behind that. Altruism, talking about unselfish behavior, typically done where you have a concern for the well-being of others. Greed, desire or to have or possess more than what is needed. All right. Morality, construct that informs a person of right and wrong. And then ethics, of course, a set of principles based upon some of those morality standards. Then, of course, we have our activity. So let's go ahead for 4.4 inside of the text as a group, like we did the last one, explore those questions that you have there. Talk about them, and then when we're back, we'll go ahead and rejoin our conversation. All right, so when you're looking at those things there, you're talking about, let's say, altruism. I mean, you're typically doing something for other people. I mean, that's basically where this is going in. So let me give an example. I mean, you're doing it for other people, and sometimes, and in many instances, as at cost to yourself. I define myself as an altruist. Now, it's because that's what I've done. I mean, in the workplace, and people are friends down the street, across the street, acquaintances, I've always stuck my neck out on the chopping block for them in order to help a person out. I mean, that's what I do. I mean, what do you want? You want money? No. You want title? Nope. Keep it. You want accolades? No. I just want to help. That's just what I want to do. I don't need anything else out of it. That doesn't always resonate with people. Some people look at this because there are different views on it. There are different views, and that maybe there's some type of expectation of some type of reciprocation in the future. I want something back. I mean, there is a type of altruism. It is, and we'll talk about that next week. But not all situations, not all people, not all instances of altruism are set up that way. Sometimes it just happens. It's what they do. It's really just in its most true form. I mean, that's kind of what it is. All right. On the other side of that, you have, I don't want to say it's opposite, but you have greed. Okay. I mean, there's greed. Typically, you're looking at not satisfaction. All right. So satisfaction means you've reached some particular level. Greed actually is almost like an over gratification. It goes beyond this. And that's typically, when you're looking at that, that's going to be at the expense of something else. Now, I'm not saying that that's always people. That could be other systems. That could be other things. But it is a benefit to you or your group or whatever you're representing, what actor this is, at the expense of something else. All right? And that could lead to chaos. To be perfectly honest with you, if we all operated in that mode, then we are all in it for ourselves, and there is chaos. There's no other way around that I can see. Maybe some people, I mean, they have different views. Once again, there are different views here as well. You know, maybe some people are the go-getters. They're the ones who are going to tear that up. They're the ones who are actually going to reach out and move forward. And the other people are just going to be the ones that give up. You understand? I mean, that could be a way of looking at it. The strongest survive. Personally, I don't think that's how societies are ever going to. I don't see longevity in that kind of society at all. But that's just my point of view. So you have these different kinds of views. You have views that greed can be a driver. I mean, so I was talking about the go-getters who can go, who will, because I'm greedy, I'm going to get it for myself. Well, there are byproducts, if you will, of that sort of thing. If they're going after it, they're going to make the difference. They're going to get as much as they possibly can. There are side effects that come out of this endeavor, all right? And some of those side effects benefit us all. If it does. So it's not as if greed is bad, all right? Not because even bad is a subjective term. It's not like that. It just has the potential for leading to undesirable effects. It's almost as if, in my opinion, that greed needs to be managed. Even altruism could take some type of management to see people not to burn out. I mean, that's what you're looking at with altruism. With altruism, you have people burn out. And greed, I'm as a greedy actor, I could simply burn other people out, or simply burn them up, or use them, consume them, whatever, however you look at that. So those are what those terms are. And I point out again to make sure you understand that it's not as cut and dry as one's good and one's bad. It depends. It depends on context. Depends on where it's done, how it's used. I just pointed out where greed could be good depending on context of where it's used. Altruism could be bad depending on how it's used. It could burn people up. All right. Morality, where we're actually talking about right versus wrong. It's sets of concepts and structures for people to be able to really kind of guide us, to make sure that we aren't screwing stuff up. Goodness gracious, because we do so frequently. And so you might say, where does this morality come from? It comes from multiple sources. I mean, first off, it comes from our parents. Parents are the ones who teach these things. But then you also have churches. You also have other communities of practice which are imparting morality upon us. You also have schools, but schools really don't really focus directly. Most schools anyway, not directly on morality because it's subjective. There are different moral structures. All right. So in that particular instance, that's kind of why we have some of the discord that we have. I mean, one person's morality might not fit someone else's. So their structure of the way of looking at things, right versus wrong, it's just not jiving with theirs. And, well, there's going to be static. There's going to be conflict out of that. Okay? Ethics, or you're looking at the rule sets, and for all intents and purposes, that are derived out of some of those moral constructs, and how you go about it. And so there are the things that are derived from that. You might have the morals out there, but the ethics are the things that kind of make up the rule set. Okay? I mean, I keep saying the rule set, but that's basically how it is. How you're supposed to be acting in accordance with these moral structures of right and wrong that you actually have. All right? That's what we're actually talking about there. What you have next is another activity. Okay? Activity in your own words, section 4.5 inside of the thing. They're a different one. So this is slightly different. So go ahead and look at answering those questions. I actually say take a moment to answer the questions on your own first before you start talking about things inside the group. All right? Once you actually are inside of your group, share some of those answers. Look for some of the commonality. Look for some of the differences. Why somebody might be answering one way versus another. Okay, I mean, this isn't an opportunity to start picking up clubs and beating people. No, I'm not talking about that at all. But it's a different opportunity to look at why you might feel the way or think the way that you do. Maybe there's another angle to this that someone else can share that you didn't see before. All right. So take a look at that. And once you're done with that, we shall move on with what we're going to talk about next. And that, well, that's going to be our steps for critical analysis. Okay, so we've made it to our steps for critical analysis of moral influence. As usual, there are 5 of these that we're going to be evaluating. So let's take a particular scenario. Once again, when you use these steps for critical analysis, you're applying these against scenarios that you might encounter in life, or you might in conversation, or things you might be overseeing to help you understand a bit better, to make sure that people aren't pulling the wool over your eyes, make sure that people aren't attempting to manipulate you into thinking one thing versus another, to make sure that people aren't using their influence or other concepts that they might have expertise in, or things that could sway you emotionally. And that's what this is all about, trying to identify those things so that we can make the best decisions we can. And so we're looking at what? Does the scenario reference some type of divine-based authority, notion of universal rights? Are you trying to bring up some type of personal or cultural figures that you should be paying homage to? Oh, I revere that person, so if that person thought it, so on and so forth. Defensive set of beliefs while beating down somebody else, and then of course the means versus the ends versus the means. Are we just looking at the end result and not caring how we got there? So let's take something, all right? You're just sitting around there, I hear somebody oversay something like this. Those people, they say all they want is equality and self-determination, which of course everyone deserves a right to. But the problem is that there doesn't seem to be a single God-fearing man among them. I say we should just let them sit where they are, let the virus run its course, and then see what's what. That seems to be what we should do. Now, if you were the type of person overhearing such a conversation, or somebody was mentioning this as a result of I don't know, some event, some situation, and they're trying to make a case for something. I mean, some of the things there that were stated in that were bothersome to me. Okay? I mean, what you're looking at was there's some type of reference to a divine-based authority. So when the actor mentioned that I didn't see a single God-fearing man among them, that said to me that they were attempting to use some type of divine power, some type of divine authority or support to say that, well, if they had this, if they had that divine backing, if they had that divine not really intervention, but support, backing. I mean, if they were on that side, if they were on our side, then things would be better. All right. That would flag for me. All right. This universal rights, when they're saying something about, there's people want equality and self-determination. But of course, everybody, that's what everybody gets. That seems, someone mentioning that, it almost seems as if they're appealing to some type of emotional position that I could have of fairness, right? I mean, that's universal. Everybody should get that. So I can overlook that. I mean, I can accept that. I'm not saying that was bad. I'm not saying that was good. What I am saying is that deploying that type of logic, those types of statements, it's a broad brush to paint across things. All right. And when those types of words and phrases are uttered, there's a generalization that's taking place, all right, that typically could be overlooking some of the more individualistic type characteristics that we should be focusing on. But now this wild card is thrown out with this universal whatever it is, yeah, flag that. That's going to be questionable. Maybe it's not going to be an issue, but it's going to be something we ought to think about. All right? I didn't see any cultural figures or anything like that. For all intents and purposes, the sets and beliefs, I didn't see that. But in the end, I mean, you're talking about the effects of some action rather than on the means. They had mentioned letting some virus run its course and then just seeing what happens in, after it's after the results have been seen, right? We want to see what the effects are once it's done. Well, I'm thinking running a virus running its course. I'm thinking some of those effects are death, right? I mean, how is that? How's that any kind of rational thinking? Now, I mean, that's all of this was just a hypothetical example of, some scenario that you could run into. The problem is this happens a lot, all right? It does. And it doesn't have to be this kind of thing, but there are many instances where we run into scenarios where people bring up, we're talking about what? I'd say that's what we do at church. That's what some of those people are actually doing. I think that's a good thing to do, right? I mean, once you throw that out there, I mean, well, religion's good. I mean, I guess if that's what you're trying to say, but not everybody sees it that way. Not everybody will be a Christian. There might be other people who are Muslim or Buddhist or atheist, right? They might not see it that way. So you're throwing something out there that making an assumption that everybody's on board with the same religious, because that power, that divine authority in certain instances, right, in certain contexts or concepts, I mean, that power is like ultimate. I mean, that is the be all end all. I mean, if you have support from that thing, well, then I don't need anything else. You understand? I mean, that's why when those types of arguments, those types of phrases are put inside of a situation, it's almost like it's an end game. I don't have to argue this at all because I've got God on my side. Come on, you can do better than that. You just kid. All right. So that's what we're talking about with this, talking about the steps for critical analysis inside of moral influence. Okay, looking at those types of things, making sure that people aren't trying to manipulate and get you to think about things and do things that's not in your best interest. And of course, that's going to move us into another activity where we're going to be looking at some type of current events that you find out there. So it's typically specified by your facilitator. Inside of your group, you're looking at those types of controversial things. You might be looking at moral and ethics codes that might be present. You might be looking at some of those instances where some type of authority or some type of cultural reference is being presented that we should be, now that person, George Washington did it, our founding fathers did it. Well, I mean, it's okay. That was 200 years ago. You understand? Yeah, they did it then. I don't know. What are they doing now? Right? I mean, come on. You got to do a little more work on that argument. That's what we're talking about here. All right. So what we have here, I mean, that was going to be our week talking about our moral influence. You have your activities that you need to do up on the course management system. Check that stuff out. Get that stuff done. What we're going to be moving next week into equilibrium. Equilibrium covers, liberty. Again, altruism. We will be breaking apart altruism in other component parts. And then, of course, justice as well. We're rounding out this course. Next week we have equilibrium, and then we have a couple more videos which explain how to use the algorithms, which you will find out on the site, the tools that will actually make use of these things that we've actually been talking about in this course so far. All right? That's going to be it. I'm Dr. Johnson. I thank you for being here. Until next time, Jiffy Tayos.